experts in Singapore are raising concerns about fake videos and content circulating online on the Iran conflict. They say AI tools are increasingly being used to create content that is cheaper, faster, and more convincing. This includes recycling unrelated old footage and using AI tools to exaggerate the scale of devastation. And to tell us how consumers can guard against such misinformation, I'm joined by Professor Simon Chesterman, who is a Senior Director of AI Governance at AI Singapore. Now, Professor, we've seen AI-generated content distort reality during these conflicts. What kind of falsehoods around Iran should we be most alert to?
Well, I think one thing that people need to be aware of is, first and foremost, the idea that you'll just be able to tell what's fake. Those days are gone. It used to be just photographs, then it was poor images, poor videos, and the quality is increasing very, very quickly. And so we have to look more towards what the image is trying to do and what our response to it is. So basically, if you're seeing an image and it's pushing your buttons, or it's revealing something that appears to be very dramatic that you hadn't heard about through official sources, that's a bit of a red flag, because often something that appears too good to be true probably isn't. And so I think we really want to be wary of having that very reptilian response that, oh, this is crazy, I've got to share it with all my friends, without pausing, at least for a moment, to think about whether it might be true and whether it's appropriate for you to share.
Yeah, so getting you emotionally riled up, that's a key sign that perhaps this content was designed to be this way. But who benefits from creating and spreading this kind of AI-generated content? And why is it spreading so quickly?
Well, the why question is the easy one. The technology makes it instant to share things around the world, not just within Singapore. But the why question is kind of interesting. And basically, the three dominant rules that people are either chasing: propaganda, profit, or polarization. So propaganda, there are state actors that are trying to engage in not just misinformation, but disinformation, actively trying to misuse information. And so one well-known example now is the Tehran Times published a fake image of a US military installation in Doha, in Qatar, having been destroyed. So that was part, we believe, of a state-sponsored effort to promote their cause. So there's that kind of propaganda. Secondly, profit. People make money off the internet through advertising, and the thing that drives advertising is eyeballs, and the thing that drives eyeballs is engagement. And so there is, unfortunately, a financial incentive for people to circulate material that will inflame, that will either excite or enrage people, because then they'll share it. And then the third area is there are some people who are just trying to sow dissent, trying to sow the seeds of polarization, to shape the narrative, to widen fractures within societies, including in Singapore. And so I think we need to be wary of all those motives, but in particular, the polarization is the one that has the most likely possible consequence for domestic society here in Singapore.
Yeah, let's talk a bit about that polarization. In Singapore's context, what are the biggest dangers when people are repeatedly exposed to these very convincing, but also ultimately false AI content?
So in the short term, there is the risk that people believe the lie. They believe, for example, that this is a religious war, or that it's being driven by ethnic hatred as opposed to political interests and geopolitics. And if that widens fractures here, that's a real problem. But a second medium-term concern is that there's not only a problem of the quality of this information being ever more realistic, but it's also the quantity problem. There is the possibility of flooding the zone, that people are then unable to distinguish truth from falsity, and that even reputable sources of information are then discounted. And that's really the larger risk, is the longer-term concern that people will cease to believe anything, or they'll just believe whatever they go into an engagement already believing. And that's a real problem, because that's not just the problem that the liars believe, but there's this phenomenon known as the liar's dividend, which means that even true problematic things can be discounted because there's so much misinformation that really no one believes anything online anymore. And that would be a real problem for any kind of society in which there's trust in any kind of institution.
Yeah, well, Professor, very quickly before we go, if you were to give us one tip for anyone to check whether a piece of content is real before sharing it, what would it be?
I've got colleagues here at the Information Gyroscope Project working on digital resilience. So the problem is not falsity. There's always going to be falsity out there. And this is not a problem that can be solved by government. Government has POFMA, FICA, there's legislation. The problem is a lie can travel around the world while the truth is putting on its shoes. So it's really on all of us to educate ourselves, to be digitally resilient, and to be appropriately suspicious of things we see online, so that we're not so naive that we're gullible and believe everything, but also not so cynical that we cease to believe anything.
All right, Professor, thank you so much for that perspective. That was Professor Simon Chesterman, who is the Senior Director of AI Governance at AI Singapore.